get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah. Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Yes, I can. Doubt, better leave. I'm running with this plan. Pull me, grab us in the bucket, can't have me. I'll be the president one day. January 1st. Oh, you like that gossip? Like you the one drinking what gossip.com. Now I got a word for your tongue. How many Rolling Stones you want? Yeah, I got a brand new spirit speaking and it's done. Woke up on the side of the bed like I won. Talk like the wind in my chest to that sun. G5 in the US to Taiwan. Now who can say that? I wanna play back. Mama knew I was a needle in a haystack. Oh, body boy, plus way back. I got a feeling it's a rap. ASAP.
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah. Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling.
That's just a quick montage of what's happened. You know, I showed that to my mom yesterday afternoon, and she said, you know, anybody under 50 years old will get that song and will understand. So I was trying to get something to get things fired up. But it is, for the reason I liked it, because, you know, I do have a great feeling. And I know there's a lot of folks here today that have that same great feeling about what's happening in our community. And I want to talk a little bit about the successes that we've had this year, and also to outline for you two things. Number one is some challenges that I see facing the city in the coming years, and also what the highlights and what the priorities are going to be for 2017. So what I'm going to do first is, here's the agenda for today real quick, and I'm going to get everybody here out by 1 o'clock. There's basically 5 things. I'm going to talk a little bit about my leadership philosophy, and then I think it's important, because I see a lot of new faces, is how does city government work? And then talk about the successes this year, and look at what's on the horizon, and there may be time for a question or two after that. So with that, with respect to, you know, my personal philosophy, you know, a lot of people in their professional lives, they hear a lot about leadership and different styles of leadership. We all hear a lot about organizational norms and also culture. And we try to put together a style when we're leading our organizations. And really, I'm no different. And these 2 slides pretty much surmise what I think and feel every single day. And the first one is basically, I believe that local government is where leadership and public service matters the most. Each and every day, I have a relationship with you in some way, shape, or form. When you get up in the morning and you turn on your sink or take a shower, or you're washing clothes, or you flush the toilet, okay? That's the city's responsible for that, okay? When you get out and you drive on the streets, the city's responsible for those streets. If you need police, fire, you need a medical service, we're there. And so these are the services that are so intimate to all of us that we count on every single day. And so that's why I believe that it's important that we work every single day to serve the citizens and businesses of this community the very best we can. And I think it's important to know in the next slide is that what I believe. So as city manager, you'll know what I'm thinking every day. To me, one of the most important things there is stewardship and service. I look for people that want to work for the city in leadership positions, in every position, that truly have a servant's heart, that want to be here, that want to serve the community to the very best of their ability and understand the important role they play in the lives of citizens and businesses every single day. Secondly, is I truly believe that with strong proactive leadership, almost any problem we have can be solved. And when there's opportunities, strong leadership, we can take advantage of those opportunities when we see a company that wants to locate here, getting together to find out what resources we could muster to convince them to make an investment. And third, I believe that you need to be seeking constant and continuous community improvement. I always want Broken Arrow to be a place where people want to come to and not go from. And to do that, you have to be looking not just today, but next year, the 3rd year, 5 years, 10 years, a decade down the road, and making sure that you're doing things today that are going to want people to come here and want people to stay here. Because if you look at the communities that are successful around this country, they're thinking not only today, what they're doing today was something that they actually started thinking about 10 years ago. And I can tell you the 3 entities that represent us are constantly thinking about that both individually and collectively. And so that's extremely important to me. And fourth, as Wes talked about, is an engagement, and do it with compassion. is I think it's important, even if the public doesn't agree with you, is that you need to engage the public and give them opportunities to express their views on things that are going on in their community. And also understand that when you're serving a city of 110,000 people, there will be people that are not going to benefit from every single thing the city has to do. But you still have to be compassionate, and you have to listen to those folks and their concerns and see if you can address them. But the most important thing is we have to do what we believe is best for the entire community. And finally is to be as transparent as possible. And that really comes down to really two things. Tell the people what's happening and tell them the truth. And if it's not good news, tell them sooner than you tell them something that is good news. Because if not, today with social media, people are going to put it out there. And so I try in my position is to make sure the council knows as soon as possible, and then the community knows. Because I always want my bosses to be informed about what's happening. I don't think we'll always be first, because now people are just trying to put the media out there. They don't care if it's true or not. They just want to be first to get it out there. And what I want to do is make sure that the information we put out there is accurate, and then you have the most accurate information so you can make an informed decision. So now I want to focus on the city's local government. So here is our city council members. Just real quick, we have 5 city council members, and the 3 of them are here today. And the city council members, they select the mayor from among themselves. And they do that on an annual basis. And I can tell you is that I couldn't be prouder to serve for a group of individuals that are dedicated, individuals that are motivated and engaging, and they're always available to help me and the city staff and the residents if there's a problem or issue that needs to be resolved. And I can tell you is they ask a lot of really good questions, and they hold myself and the rest of us very much accountable for what we do every day, and I think that's the way that it's supposed to be. And I couldn't be happier to be serving these gentlemen as they are the elected representatives for our city. Now the next slide briefly is our organizational chart, and we have the traditional 3 branches of government. We have the legislative branch, which is elected by the citizens. Our council members serve for 4 years, and those terms are staggered, so we always have continuity. And the council members have two employees. They have the judge, which is the head of the judicial, and they have myself, who is responsible as the executive branch. And one of the accomplishments I'm very happy about this year was we were able to reorganize our organization to be more effective and efficient with the way we operate every day. The council fortunately supported me in adding an additional city manager, and we've realigned into essentially 3 divisions. And we have the administration, which is Russell Gale, who's over the traditional support divisions. And then we have Kenny Swab, both guys are from Broken Arrow, which is very important to me, that's over the traditional public works department. And I do think that there is, as a growing community, there will be a need for an additional leadership position to make sure that we're serving the citizens to the best of our ability, and certainly hope that there'll be the funding available to be able to do that in the future. The next slide is a picture of our leadership team. You got to shake hands with them just a few minutes ago, and I believe just about all of them are here. And I can tell you is that I feel like in my 29 years, I've never had so much talent and so much experience all wrapped into one to start off a position as city manager. I mean, these folks are some of the most well-recognized, well-respected individuals around this state. And that's one of my goals, is for the cities around this state to look to Broken Arrow to see how we do it. And when it comes to parks, I've heard it from people when I was in Oklahoma City. Hey, Scott Esmond does a great job. Beth Ann Wilkin, now with Beth Ann Childs, our city attorney, is one of the most well-respected municipal attorneys in the state of Oklahoma. And that's the kind of expertise that you have, that I have, the council has at their disposal to make sure we make good decisions, and I'm very proud of every one of them. And what's really cool is they're all holding books, because we have a good partnership with our public libraries, and 2 of my friends from the libraries are here today. And they come to our staff meeting and city council members, and they ask us to participate in a book competition. And that's the picture from last summer. So I just want to recognize our friends from the public library for being here today and the support that they give us. Now, how are we doing financially? That's something that a lot of folks want to know. And I can tell you is that right now we are in outstanding financial condition as a city. And I can promise you is that there's a lot of cities, unfortunately, are not able to say this. And I want to just address this, because as good as things are, because of the tax model that we currently have in the state in terms of how city receive money for general services, that could quickly change. As of October 31st of this year, our income is down about 3% over projections. Fortunately, our expenses are running about 3% under, so we're okay. We will look at the mid-year right after the holidays to see if we need to make any adjustments. We also have a reserve fund balance of $5.6 million, which meets the council's expectations of a policy to make sure we have 10% to be able to handle any unforeseen circumstances, something extraordinary that may happen as we have those reserves. And that's a lot of diligence on a lot of people to make sure that we're watching the dollars, especially when the fact is about 85 to 90% of all of our budgets are personnel. I mean, we've cut the paper clips down to about as many as only what we need. And, we're cutting down on paper with technology today. So we're, as Chief Boggs basically, said, is that, we're about as lean as we can get in terms of non-personnel related expenses. And so any change in the taxes we receive through sales tax, it has a tremendous potential for a detrimental effect on our city. With respect to our utility department, which is BAM, it's called BAMA, Broken Arrow Municipal Authority, right now our income is down about 3%, and our expenses, fortunately, are about 9%. So that's good stewardship to make sure that we're watching our dollars. We do have some open positions, and I don't believe that you should just fill the position because it's open. Anytime there's a position that's open that's not a police officer or a firefighter in the city, the department director has to justify me why I need to fill that position. Because besides public safety, I'm always asking our directors to be looking at new and improved ways to make sure that we really need that position. And normally I'll approve those, but I want to make sure that we're going through the process of making sure that we actually need that position. And the final thing I want to mention for a lot of folks that understand this, you hear a lot about bond ratings, you hear a lot about interest rates going up, is right now the city has 2 very good ratings for our size, as you can see. And what does that mean? Is that we have to borrow money every single year to reinvest in our infrastructure. And because we have such a great bond rating, we're able to get low interest rates to be able to take that money and turn that into projects. The one concern they did have in the reports that we recently got when we issued bonds was the city's overdependency on sales tax. And the fact that elastic source of revenue, there's a concern about the fact that it goes up and down and how that could affect our bond rating. So they did point that out. And I think the final slide I wanted to mention with respect to the city operations, where do we get our tax dollars from? I think that's important to know. As of January, we will have a sales tax rate of 3.55 cents on every dollar. And it's broken down, as you can see, into 4 categories. I'm very pleased that last category, the 55 tenths of a cent for vision, was a repurposing that the voters approved about 78% November of last year to repurpose that tax for police, fire, and street maintenance. The other items is that we have money for general fund. We also have half a cent for capital improvements. And then we also have a cent that we must guarantee to our utility authority. And if, in fact, we've covered our responsibilities there, then we could return that money to the general fund to pay for services such as police and fire and parks and so forth. Also, I want to mention on the far right is our BAMA. You can see is that charges for services generate 97% of what it takes to operate day to day and to cover the debt service. That means that almost 100% of our utilities is paid for by the customers. And so whenever we look at rate increases or having to increase for operations, we take that very seriously because we know it's going to come from the ratepayers. There's no unlimited ATM sitting outside the city limits that I can go hit that's going to give me additional money. So we're very sensitive to the rates, but we're also sensitive to the fact that we have responsibilities to provide quality utility services now and well into the future. So, okay, the next section I want to talk about is the initial focus and the accomplishments for 2016. When I came before you a year ago, the 3 things that I was going to focus on, and I said this because, as most people know, there had been a lack of continuity in the city manager position. That we've had a number of city managers over the years, and that made it difficult to do certain things. And one of them is build relationships. And one of my focuses this year is to get out and try to meet as many of the people within the community that I could, and also to get out and meet the entities that we work with every single day to make sure that I have those relationships on behalf of the city that are going to help us move forward. Because not a day goes by where I don't need to pick up the phone and call somebody that's whether they're at the state level, a local level, some at the chamber, a business about something that's happening. And if you don't have those relationships, people are just not going to pick up the phone. So what I focus on is trying to build those relationships both in the private sector and the public sector. Then secondly was trying to figure out how we operate every day. And I can tell you there was some room for improvement the way we did things. And I did make a couple of changes in leadership positions in order to move our community forward. I'm very happy with how that's turned out. But you have to be able to make those tough decisions sometimes. But I can tell you overall, we do run very lean as a city. And that the dollars that we do receive from the public, I believe they're used very, very well and very wisely. And then also, I wanted to take a look at the condition of our infrastructure. We have almost 550 lane miles of road streets in our city. That's a value at about $1 million a mile. So our streets are worth $550 million. Okay? And then if you add how much we have in our utilities, our facilities, the city has nearly $1 billion worth of physical assets. And most of those assets were built in the last 30 years, so many of them are in great shape, but we have a lot that are not, that need to be fixed. And so I really needed to focus on where those areas that needed to be addressed, and we had to make some decisions this year to move us forward about some reinvestments that we had to make. So we have a 7-year plan for the reinvestment in our utilities. And we have some other documents that are going to guide us as we look to make these improvements and the reinvestment in our biggest asset, which is our physical improvements around the city. So with respect to accomplishments, these are all in addition to being responsive and proactive and providing the citizens of this community the very best service every single day. So I want to mention just a few. When I got here, one of the first things that Wes talked to me about was, he said, Michael, we've got to finish the infrastructure, the redevelopment of the downtown and the Rose District. It had been languishing just a little bit because of the transition in my position. So we immediately went after it, and I'm pleased to say that in about 2 months, we will be completed with all 4 phases of the infrastructure for the redevelopment of our downtown, which was a project that started about 10 to 12 years ago. So people had the vision to say that we don't want downtown to be boarded up buildings or places people don't want to come, and look at it today. I mean, right now, we're collecting about $350,000 a year in sales tax from the businesses downtown versus 5 or 6 years ago, we were only getting $20,000. So if you look at the $15 to $20 million that the city invested, the vision the council members had, and you parlay that with about $30 million of private investment, you see the Rose District. And so we needed to finish that infrastructure, and so I'm pleased to say that we're going to do that, and we were able to add the interactive water feature, which I'm just excited about, and I don't think people fully understood the magnitude of what that fountain will bring to our community in the future, because we opened it up at the tail end of the season. But it's going to be open in April, weather permitting, and then it's going to be open all the way as long as the weather permits. And that's going to draw folks from all over the region to take a look at that tremendous public improvement. I also wanted to mention that we did eliminate some obstacles within the department, mainly because we needed to move projects. And I'm proud to say that this year in the fiscal year, which is July to June, we have planned $70 million worth of work. And that's either from design to bid to construction and basically out the door. And that's going to be from general bond obligations that many of the voters approved here, and about $28 million worth of utility projects. And so I can tell you that we are extremely busy. And one of the things I'm most happy about, I was able to get Kenny Schwab to come back to be over operations. And we hired a gentleman that is also from Broken Arrow named Alex Mills, who Alex is just, he's the man. I'm telling you, he knows what he's doing. He knows how to move projects. He knows how to meet expectations. And I'm very, very proud that he's in that position. I point him out simply because he walked in and I told him, I said, are you ready for this? Because you're going to be busy. And he said, I'm ready to go. So Alex, I want to publicly thank you, because he's the one that's responsible for getting things out the door. So thank you very much. Also, I'm very excited about this. Steve Arent, our street and stormwater director, at the request of the council, completed a street pavement index report. Now, this is going to be a guiding document that tells us the condition of every single street in this city. And as we go forward and actually do the maintenance on the streets, we will now have a guide that shows us the condition of that pavement. So when we're planning our improvements, we'll be able to look at that document and say, what type of money do we need to apply, whether it's just a thin overlay or it's a total rebuild to maintain our streets. The challenge is that we have great streets. Our streets are better than almost any community in this country. We're in the 70 to 80 percentile, which is great. But they're only going to stay that way if we commit the resources to be able to do so. Now, the street tax that we passed is going to give us about $3 million, but we still need the total of $6.2 to $6.5 million a year to maintain our streets. So in future general bond obligations, you're going to hear the city talk about the need for additional money for street maintenance to be able to keep those streets in the great standards that we have. But this guiding document is a tremendous tool. Not a lot of cities have it, but I can tell you it's a great tool for us going forward. We talked a little bit about the organizational realignment. Something else that I spent a lot of time talking about is the implementation of promotions, working with the Chamber of Commerce about why it's important to shop local. And it is very important to shop local, not just because it creates jobs, but also because every time you shop local and you buy a good in this town, there's dollars that come back to the city to pay for city services. And I can tell you respectfully is that the tax model that cities in our state use doesn't work well all the time anymore. The way people shop today and the fact that you can go on the internet and you can spend money and normally there's no tax to come back to it, that's direct competition with our bricks and mortar. And from my perspective, that's a threat to our community and our long-term viability to be able to support the services that we provide. So I know that we're talking to everyone we can, and along with the other cities, about the importance of having a tax model that works for our community. And the other thing I want to mention is transparency in government. We've added city council highlights. We've added a financial newsletter. We've expanded our letters that come every month in utility bills. We're using social media as best as we can to make sure you have the information about what's going on in the city. And I believe that it's working. Now, we're not going to rest on our laurels. We've got several programs we're going to roll out to include, we're going to be fixing Channel 24 to upgrade it into HD, and we're going to be adding a city show that focuses on more information about what's happening. And the other thing I'm really excited about is that we continue to work in an aggressive way to promote economic development. Is that, I believe that we need to have a set of rules, whether it's residential or it's business or for the businesses, that are clear, that are understandable, and they make sense. And then once we have those rules, we communicate those rules to those people that want to make investments and then help them bring those projects out of the ground. And that's not a bureaucratic way of looking at things, okay? I'll bend the rules to work with anybody, but we are going to have rules. You have to have rules for life safety. And a lot of times when you make improvements, I end up getting those improvements, and I'm responsible for them. So we have good sets of rules, but at the same time, we help people make investments in our community. And that's the attitude, and that's what I'm trying to bring to our development services, to our engineering services, because that's what the council said that they wanted. And my philosophy marries up 110%, and I know that Wes feels the exact same way. And so I can tell you folks is that sometime, I don't think you'd want to see how you make sausage when it comes to doing economic development, because it's really not very pretty, okay? Because you can be sitting in your office and working on, okay, we need to go talk to this business, and all of a sudden you get a phone call. Kenny Tilley gets a phone call saying, hey, we've got project this, we need this information about your infrastructure, any incentives, and we need it tomorrow. And you have to drop what you're doing and you have to put some information together, and the city usually has to make a call, are we willing to commit resources to bring a large business to our city? And I couldn't be happier with the fact that we're very, very responsive. Kenny does a great job, and I know Wes works hard, and also Norm Stevens in the back. And Warren, we're going to miss Warren, but I'm looking forward to working with his replacement. He's got a lot of experience. But you know what I can tell you, if you're not looking to the future and trying to bring business here, what's going to happen is people are going to go elsewhere. And I want to make sure that for the basic necessities, the people in this community can shop here if they choose, and then understanding that there's a benefit, an augmented benefit of the fact that sales tax gets generated and then the city grows from there. So, last section really is what's on the horizon for our great city. I'm going to start off by talking about the challenges, because you're going to be hearing me talk a lot about those challenges. And the first one is, just like any community in the state of Oklahoma, we have an overdependency on sales tax for operations. And it's a concern to me, because I look at number 2, our operational expenses versus revenue available. And remember, I said about 90% of our expenses are personnel. Is that we have this overdependency on sales tax. My concern is that at some point, and I've looked at the budgets, in the next few years, our expenses are going to outpace our revenues. And we're trying to manage that as best as we can. But it is a real challenge. I mean, our sales tax normally grows every year, but the cost of labor, the cost of personnel. For example, we have collective bargaining agreements that we have to honor, and if we can't reach an agreement, then we have full collective bargaining. The state, an interest arbitration panel makes those decisions, and sometimes those are outside of what the city would be willing to give. And so we have to be good stewards of the dollars, but I am very concerned about that. Also is that for the next 7 years, we're going to be under construction for the reinvestments in our utilities. And we've had some problems with our utility system. We had a main break this past April, a time frame that cost the city almost $200,000 to repair. And that's because the trunk sewer system is basically about 40 or 50 years old and it needs to be replaced. So we're going to be spending about $140 million over the next 7 to 10 years to reinvest in our infrastructure to maintain the customers we have now. Plus, the city's got nearly 4,000 homes that have been approved for development. And so we're not going to stop growing. And the last thing that we want is for our community to be recognized as a place where we can't support the infrastructure. And so we're constantly looking and making sure that we can provide that infrastructure for those that want to make those investments here. And then finally, my biggest concern is the fact that the city does such a great job in every area, is that managing the growth expectations. I mean, right now there are roads in our community that need to be widened, that there is traffic jams. We've all driven on those roads, and we have to work to come up with long-term plans to address our traffic, the issues we have with traffic. We also have to make sure that we have enough city employees to manage the challenges of day-to-day delivery of services. And so we're going to hear me talk a lot about where we're at in terms of being able to provide that service going forward. But my number one really concern with the city right now is the fact that we have an overdependency on sales tax, and we hope that in the next couple of years we can get that model updated to be able to provide the revenue so we can continue to serve all of you. So the priorities for 2017, here's what I'm really excited about, is obviously I'll always have an emphasis on maintaining a good, strong financial position. That's the number one responsibility of the city, and I think we do a great job of that. Secondly is implementation of the Vision 2025 vision tax that was passed or repurposed, is to hire additional police officers and firefighters. We're going to be hiring 20 additional firefighters and police officers. Through the efforts of Chief Jeremy Moore, the fire chief, we were able to get 2 grants that are going to allow us to bring those firefighters on in the next couple of years versus having to spread it out over the next 5 years. Those were grants totaled about $2.5 million. So I want to acknowledge the chief's efforts to bring in those additional dollars to help shore up our budget. Chief Boggs has already hired 1 class, and we'll be starting another one, or right now is going through the process to bring on the additional police officers, because this is a safe city. Now we all have our element, don't get me wrong, but I can tell you is that one of the things people look for when they're coming and want to make an investment in this city is what is the condition of your school districts, how great is it, and secondly, how safe is it? And I can tell you we're at the top of the list in those 2 items. And we're also near the top of the list in the service we provide. We will continue to make reinvestments in our infrastructure. The city every 5 years or so needs to come to the voters and ask them for approval to expand roads, to upgrade facilities, to fix stormwater problems, and we will continue to do that. The next time we will probably ask the voters for approval of propositions will be sometime in 2017, later this year, or next year I should say, and in 2018. And then finally, we have to maintain an aggressive approach to economic development. We have to be out there trying to market our community as a good investment. And what is happening is, in the last 5 years, people are starting to see that a population of 110,000 has tremendous buying power, and that their household income is good, and as a result of that, they're starting to look about making major investments. And I can tell you is that, every single day we're trying to figure out what's going on with the Warren Theater. I'm just going to put it out there, is that we're meeting with the builder, the developer, and believe me, he gets tongue lashings about every 2 months about the fact that, the city stuck its neck out and spent $7 million and you haven't done anything. And I say that with little disdain because, if we could have had crystal balls, I don't know if the council would have made that investment. I think they might have, but there might have been some additional conditions. But believe me, I think it's going to happen with all the rooftops that we have out there. It's just going to take longer than what everyone expected. But every day I can tell you we're out there trying to convince people to make investments all over town, especially the south part of town. We're gonna make a shift, which starts tonight, regarding downtown redevelopment for housing. We have a public forum right here tonight to make the pivot to actually looking at how we create opportunities for development with our downtown for housing. There's a lot of land here, and it's going to happen organically. And what the council members have said they wanted is an overlay that makes sure that there is a systematic way that we go about redeveloping our downtown for housing. So I'm excited about kicking that off tonight. And as you saw in the video, I truly believe that our city needs to become more sustainable. We have to take care of Mother Earth. We have to do it. It starts with us. And we've done that by taking our trash. The first step was to Covanta, to the waste-to-energy facility, which is a tremendous step forward. We're also going to be looking at creating a curbside collection program for residential, hopefully that the council members would approve and that we would implement later in 2017 or 2018. And then we'll have other things on the horizon to make us more sustainable because, as Wes said, there are things that people tick off their list when they come here. And I can tell you, those companies that are coming from overseas, one of the first comment they make is, how sustainable are you? And we kind of have to dodge that question, quite frankly. But I'm proud to say that we don't have to dodge it anymore because we are making efforts to make sure that we're more sustainable. And then also the final item is this, is that we have a tourism assessment that's going to be completed to figure out how we can attract more business and industry to our town for conferences. And I'm pleased to tell you that the owner of the conference center said that the conference center will be open sometime in September of 2017. So we're just about 8.5 to 9 months away, and that's an investment of about $6 to $7 million of the city money to make that happen. And we think that conference center is going to be a tremendous boon to our city by bringing conferences, having folks stay in the hotels, and supporting local business. And we're looking at some ways that we can capture why those people are here. What can we do to entertain them while they're here if they're going to be here for multiple days? So in conclusion, I just want to say that I'm truly blessed to serve as Broken Arrow City Manager. It's the position that I've coveted for some time. There's a lot of work to be done. The city is not going to rest on its laurels. We're going to continue to work hard every single day. I look forward to working with each and every one of you. If I see you on the street, I want to have a conversation, see how things are going. And my door is always open at City Hall. We did some renovations to City Hall. I want to thank Magnum Construction. I'm a true believer that when you have the opportunity to give your business to local people, you should give your business to the local people. And I can tell you, as the job that they did, the city couldn't be happier. So thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate you and your team's efforts to redo our City Hall. So with that, I just want to say, I want to wish my wife Jill's in the back. I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And here's to having an awesome and prosperous 2017 for our great community. Thank you.